guest tonight is a Pittsfield City Councilor, has been on the City Council for a lot of years. He'll tell us how many in a minute. Heavily active in the Pittsfield 4th of July parade. Just a well-known name in Pittsfield city politics. Please welcome to the show, Peter Marchetti.
Well, hello.
Yes, Peter, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yes, so Monday the 3rd, you made it official with your campaign kickoff, and you're officially running for the mayor of Pittsfield.
That is correct. We had our gathering at Berkshire Hills Country Club Monday, April 3rd.
Okay, and how did that go?
I thought it was a terrific response, 200 plus people. Good energy in the room, lots of questions, and lots of excitement to begin a campaign to really talk about who I am and what I intend to do, and keep it upbeat and positive of why we think that we're the best candidate to lead Pittsfield forward, and why my resume shows that I'm the best candidate to be the next mayor of the city of Pittsfield.
Okay, and what are the big issues driving your campaign this year?
Well, I think they're the same issues that we always have, and throughout this campaign we're going to really talk about my leadership and management style, and I will be leading with much communication and collaboration. And during the campaign, I think I can point out a number of instances where collaboration and being able to really get down the trenches and say, okay, we all kind of agree on this, we want to see the end outcome, what little pieces need to be tweaked. And I think we can show that through the campaign, through things that I've done in the 16 years that I've been on the city council. I think my communication style is much different than the current mayor or mayors before that. And so I think that Pittsfield has built a great foundation over the last 20 years, over 4 mayors, because I think each mayor has added some things to the foundation that could use improvements. And
so were you a councilor under 4 mayors? I
was a councilor under 3 of them.
Okay.
Because the 4th one was during my 4-year hiatus from the city council. So I was on the council under Mayor Hathaway, Mayor Roberto, and Mayor Tyre.
Okay, so you were not under Mayor Bianchi?
I was not.
Okay.
I served as a member of Conservation Commission and a member of the Charter Review Commission under Mayor Bianchi. But
so you were still active through the whole...
Still active, yep.
So running for office has got to be a normal thing for you now, or part of the routine.
Well, I think, you know, it's
Are we still green and white, by the way?
We are still green and white.
Okay.
The lettering and the design changed somewhat, but not a major amount. And so green and white. The website was kicked off Monday as well, just earlier in the day. MarchettiForMayor.com, Marchetti for Mayor Facebook page, and folks can go and take a look. And right now there's a basic foundation of all the issues, and so we're going to be talking economic development, job creation, workforce development training. We're going to be talking education. We're going to be talking public safety. We're going to be talking general government services. We're going to be talking management style. We're going to be talking, some of the ideas that we have to, move Pittsfield forward. And I think that...
Would you say there's any big issues? Like, it seems like every mayor faces some big ones. We have the Taconic High School project. Are there any big issues that you feel would be driving this election, whether it be a new police station or something like that?
Well, I think in general, and I just filed a petition at the last city council meeting. I think looking at our public buildings and the conditions of our public buildings and what they're being used for will be somewhat of a driving force for me, because do we have extra buildings that we don't really need that we're carrying? Clearly you said new police station. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a driving issue for all of us. I think it's really going to be about the perception of Pittsfield. And so, we talk crime and where is it coming from? And I would be very quick to say that, like crime, our homeless situation is somewhat tied to drug addiction, mental health illnesses, or poverty. And I don't think we've taken a step back and said, how do we deal with this, right? You were pretty active 2 summers ago with what was going on in Springside Park, and here it is 2 years later, and what's our solution, right? But
we do know, though, getting mental health services, there's such a wait for that.
Correct. But, I think from the housing aspect, we know that we have 3 major projects taking place right now that will bring additional housing into fruition, and everybody wants it to be a yesterday thing. With that kind of planning and that kind of number of units that are being, proposed and completed, it's going to take some time to get there. But even once we have those units, does that solve the problem, right? And so I think mental health services and resources need to be a big plate. I think we'll talk a lot about policing and what does policing look like. And again, I think we've made some progress with adding some first responders and adding some social workers. But again, do the resources that we currently have match the need? And I think that answer is no. And so we need to find ways to kind of build those pieces.
And where the government, I imagine, falls in line with that, like where their role is.
Well, and that's, I think that's the bigger issue is it local government's responsibility to provide those resources, or is it a state and federal issue? And just by saying that doesn't mean the locals are off the hook, because the locals really need to be advocating at the state and federal level to say these are our needs. And
are there issues that constituents have approached you over that you hear more than others, though? We heard about the bike lanes a lot on North Street because it's been talked about a lot.
Right.
And yes, it's North Street, and I've brought it up a lot, but there's a lot of big things on the table, and where bike lanes should fall in that as far as priority, I don't know, but I'd like to see that kind of passion and drive on any issues, any big issues.
Well, I think that when we come across those kind of issues, and 6 months ago, everybody could have made the claim that nobody likes bike lanes. Right? It's very clear nobody likes bike lanes. Well, you put a ballot question forward and begin that process, and then all of a sudden that's not the case. And I think with every issue, the people who are against something usually are the louder voices.
But do you feel like we struggle a little bit for an identity as far as our downtown, how we see ourselves? Yeah,
and I was at an event, and I've talked about this in the past about creating like a downtown pedestrian mall for the city of Pittsfield, and I had Gary Cardo come to city council meeting and goes, well, this is kind of a crazy out there idea, but how about a downtown pedestrian mall? And I saw him a couple days later at the Safe Streets rally that they were having on West Street, and I said, I don't think it's a crazy idea. I've talked about it before. It's how do you put it into place?
Right.
Is it the entire length of North Street? Is it from Eagle Street to Park Square? Is it from Eagle Street to Linden Street? How do you put it forward? I mean, I think one of the things that we have lost over the last decade is ensuring that our downtown is what we want it to be. But I don't know that it's something that is an administration issue as much as it is an economy and COVID and a variety of stuff. And so, one of the phrases I use is a stable environment post-pandemic era. Because I think if we're going to hit bottom, we're hitting it now based on, everybody was concerned about COVID, and I said I'm more concerned the year after COVID because all the resources were there. There were PPP loans for the businesses. Individuals were getting, check after check after check from the federal government.
Absolutely. Now we are talking recession, and I think it's inevitable.
And we talk recession, but we also don't have those avenues for us to be able to get. And so what does that mean? And how do you build? I think education is going to be a really big piece. I think our next police chief will be a really big piece. And not that the police chief is a really big piece, but what's behind the selection of that police chief is a really big piece, because you're going to pick the chief based on a philosophy. You're going to pick a chief based on the direction that they're going to lead a department. And I think the community has been saying for years, we want to change the way that we do policing in the community. And then there's got to be a happy medium from completely defund police to what we're doing today, right? How do you find that path?
See, I'm one of those people who'd like to see more police. I'd like to see beat cops again on North Street.
Well, and again, in the right frame of mind, yes, right? But when you have people in the community saying, we don't want them in our schools, right? Or we don't want this and we don't want that, I turn back and ask myself, is it really that we don't want them, or do we have the wrong perception, or are we actually providing the wrong perception of what policing means? And so I think the classic example you turn to is someone like Darren Derby, who's been able to build a rapport with many, many different communities. And isn't that what we want, right? So if you're going to bring back beat cops, how do they interact with the community when they're on the street?
Right.
If they walk up and down the street in a strict manner, are they going to put off the people that are there? And will you accomplish what you want? But if you put a Darren Derby on the beat who's communicating with the people, hey, what's going on, right? So if you see 4 kids hanging out on a street corner, do you go up with the, hey, what's going on? Or do you go up with, you got to move along, right?
Right.
And
I'd like to see, though, the energy of kind of like, what's our identity? Somebody who wants to come forward and say, like if I ask you, Peter, if you were to describe Pittsfield to somebody in a sentence, come to Pittsfield, what are we?
Well, I mean, I think we're a lot of things for a lot of people, and it will depend on what community you're talking to.
I think the arts, that's what first comes to mind for me, is the arts.
But that's the type of person that
Right.
you are. I can find you dozens of people, and we can go back, and I wasn't on the city council at that point in time, but
from a marketing point of view, how do you feel like, how would you promote or brand the city?
Well, it needs to be promoted and branded as a safe community where your kids can get a proper education, and no matter who you are, there's something for you to do, right? So we have parks and recreation. So if you're an outdoors folks, you've got that. We've got tons of arts and culture within the city, and then let's connect the dots, because we're the mega center of Berkshire County. So if you're truly an arts person, there's plenty of arts to do in Pittsfield, but then we can connect the dots
right.
with other communities. We're a place to raise your family. We're a place where new things happen all the time, right? But we don't focus on the good new things that are happening all the time. We focus on bike lanes because, it's really...
Which it is important. I get it. Where I think the bike lane thing holds so much importance is people want to be involved in a decision, and that should have politicians excited. Only because normally you can't get people involved. You can't get them interested.
Well, but I think the phrase "get them involved," my definition of that and yours would be different. Because if you're going to tell me getting them involved to just go vote on a ballot question, then I'm not sure that's what getting involved means. If we're going to say, look, we want to find a way that bike lanes live, and we want to find a way that downtown is still safe, and we want to find a way that we promote people coming downtown, that's getting involved.
That's the big thing.
That's getting involved, right? It's going to do a ballot question is not getting involved.
If somebody was to show me, like, here's this data that shows bicycle traffic drives in this, X amount drives in this amount of real estate is being used, and you can show me the monetary structure of it, then I can say, well, yeah, absolutely, that's the best thing for downtown Pittsfield. And I think that's what I'd like to see it looked at as, what is the best use of that one strip that we have? Well,
and I think that's a piece of it. I think the other piece is...
it's a good starting point, put it that way.
Correct. Do we feel that 1 lane traffic each way or 2 lanes of traffic each way? Which one's safer? Can you build in bike lanes? Can you... because I don't think that bike lanes makes or breaks downtown. I really don't. I think the configuration, I think not telling people what it looks like or what you should be, that's what's broken.
Yes.
Right? And so at this stage of the game, ballot question or no ballot question, is the community going to be okay coming in and saying, hey, here's a public forum about designs, right? And someone's going to have to come forward and say, here's a design.
Right.
Right?
And hopefully more than one. Hopefully multiple designs.
Well, and, again, I think there could be more than one, because we're going to talk about diagonal lanes, diagonal parking. We're going to talk about just conventional
Which that's
parking.
that's coming, right?
Right. That's a part of the conversation. So I think one plan has diagonal parking, one plan doesn't. One plan probably has bike lanes, one plan doesn't. But if we're going to be against something, why are we against it, right? So I don't think that bike lanes are the reason that people are coming downtown. I think there are a whole mess of other issues.
I'd agree with that.
That people are coming downtown for. And so we're spending so much time focusing on the bike lanes and not on the real issues where people don't feel safe in our downtown, where our business owners are getting frustrated because there are incidents happening that don't really get publicized, but it's enough to keep people away. Those are the issues that we need to be focusing on.
Absolutely.
And not, the bike lanes, it's a side conversation.
Very much so.
Yes, if we can work it in, but let's get to the nitty gritty of why, and let's kind of relook at the big picture, right? I think we have an executive director or a managing director right now of Downtown Pittsfield Inc. who gets it, who is communicating on a regular basis, and I think when she comes to the table, she's coming to the table because she's reached out to 85% of the downtown community, and she's got a pretty good handle of what she's hearing. So
yeah, Rebecca's very active.
So let's focus on that piece, right? And let's address the issues that need to be addressed and stop with the bike lane conversation, because if bike lanes go away and we still have the other issues in our downtown.
But you get why people are so engaged with it, though, right?
Absolutely get it. Absolutely get it. And I admire for what it is, but I think that those of us that are on the council have all been saying we can come up with a look and feel that people are going to like.
That's what it boils down to.
And let's not just do it, right? Because I could put in a proposal tomorrow. This is what it looks like. Here's the site. If you put that out there and then let the community have a conversation, but let's be clear what we're putting out there. We're on our second or third iteration of what bike lanes look like in downtown Pittsfield. People feel like they're being ignored. People don't know what they're supposed to do. And if we're going to make the changes, then let's also go and be clear.
I think you need PSAs. You need the whole deal.
And I think, if you say, if you say, hey, we made a mistake and we want to try again, I think acknowledging that it was a mistake, and although we like the concept, it's not understood, then I think that people will come to the table and you won't have just anti-bike lane no matter what you want to do.
Right. I mean, you don't even have to say mistake if they just said we're still tweaking it. It's not.
But I think that people,
they want to be part of the input.
They want to be part of the input, and they also want you to say when you made a mistake, you made a mistake.
I agree.
And I'm going to try something else. And I think that's important in a leader, to be able to say, hey, we screwed up. And hopefully we don't say that often. But when you do, I think it's inevitable that the community would just actually, if we had someone who said, I made a mistake, would probably go, wow.
Yes.
We never heard that before. Okay, now
I would agree.
I think that that's what we need to do.
So to sum it up then, for people who want to know more about your campaign, or what, I guess just briefly, what is your campaign about, and how can everyone get in touch with you and to get more information or volunteer?
MarchettiForMayor.com has the 6 major issues that I feel need to be addressed. There's a how to get involved, how to donate, how to do there. Marchetti for Mayor Facebook, you can always send a message. And for those that prefer the old-fashioned phone and text, 413-212-2163.
Now, you're not a huge social media person personally. Are you? Is the campaign going to step up a little bit on that?
So I am not a big social media person, but I think the campaign has already stepped up, and I'm not going to be 1,000 post a day person, but there'll be a couple posts a day as we engage in the campaign.
Well, I definitely thank you for taking the time to do this, and
thank you.
Hopefully we'll be talking quite a few more times as we get through this, however you want to, as we trench through the trenches and, and get into combat, because that's how it goes in politics.